Howdy everyone, Matt here. I got a question for you. Do you think PT and PTA schools should teach you absolutely everything there is about rehab? Or maybe just some other stuff? Let's talk about it. All right, everyone, let me introduce myself. My name is Matt. I am Matt the PT, coming at you with another video, another topic of something in the physical therapy world. And this one is about what they teach you in school. And when I talk about school, I'm meaning physical therapy school, PTA school, OT, OTA, speech, chiropractor, whatever. We'll just include all of it. Because I've been seeing this line, and it gets used fairly frequently. And it's that school doesn't teach you this. School doesn't want you to know this. And when I first started seeing that in the rehab world, it triggered a memory. And I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to tell a little story about myself. Way back when, in the early 2000s, when I was an undergrad, talking with a good friend of mine at that time, we're thinking about our future, what we want to do with our lives, and all the stuff that we want to do. Well, we said, well, you got to have money to do that. And the best way to make money is you build businesses and you invest and you do all those things. And that's how you generate a lot of money. And so we said, well, how do we learn about this? Well, let's start reading books on it. And that'd be a great way because, remember, we didn't have YouTube then, as I feel old saying that. We didn't have really easy access to this stuff. But we're we can get books and read about this. One of the first books I ever read was Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And if you have not read that book, Robert tells the story of his poor dad, which is his actual father, and his rich dad, which is his friend's father, and the lessons that he was taught and how Robert used those lessons to build this great amount of wealth. And his poor dad was his actual dad. And his actual dad told him those things that we're commonly taught. Go to school and you work hard and you get a good job and you do those things. But his rich dad, his friend's father, told him other stuff. It's no, you got to do this and you got to build businesses. You got to do this and that's how you make all this money. That's the stuff they don't teach you in school. And that was the first time I ever saw that little phrase. As I've went through my life, I have continued reading these books, these business books, investing books, and that's the kind of stuff I enjoy reading. And I started seeing that phrase used over and over again. They don't teach you this in school. They don't teach you this in school. It is over and over and over again by so many people. And now flash forward 20 years, looking back at some of the people that were saying this, well, they have some pretty questionable background. So I know of two people using that phrase. One of them was Robert Kiyosaki. The other one is Napoleon Hill. If you ever read his book, Think and Grow Rich. Very, very old book that many people reference on all this. But both of these people were saying, they don't teach you this in school. They don't want to teach you this in school. But an interesting thing, again, if you look into both of these people, you kind of find out they're a little questionable in their motives on it. So you kind of find that they're pulling some grifts on you. One, Napoleon Hill was known for kind of starting these. It was like a school type thing where you go and they teaches you all this stuff and you'll be able to go out and do all this stuff. It's very, very questionable. And he ended up passing away, owing a lot of people money and had some questionable stuff. And then Robert is still around and a lot of stuff has come out. He never actually had the rich dad. His friend and his friend's dad never existed. And he's actually in a lot of debt and he was just selling his training and all that stuff. So it's come out very, very questionable. But again, going forward, seeing that very often these same people are using that same phrase now. They didn't teach you this in school. And some of the stuff they're talking about is very, very questionable. Tying this over to the rehab world, the times that I'm really seeing this is it's when somebody is pushing something. When somebody is trying to sell that training or coaching. I know I've talked about this several times, but it seems like it's a really common marketing tactic to get people hooked in. It's this dark secret. They don't want to teach you this in school because you're going to be too amazing. If we let this little secret out, they want to just keep you oppressed and down and doing all that over here. And it really honestly makes no sense. Because if we really look back over here, now if I talk about like the business investing and then those books, like I said, that's been 20 plus years now, well, 30 plus years if you look at when those books were published, and things haven't changed. So you're saying that the people who were reading this stuff and seeing that 20, 25, 30 plus years ago are now the ones in charge of all this stuff. Why haven't they incorporated it? Why haven't they said, hey, we're seeing that this is not working with the schooling system. We need to add this other stuff in. We really need to change that. And I see that with rehab, because these people that are selling that thing to say that schools doesn't really teach you don't seem to be really ever connected into any of the schools. And I'm going to talk about PT schools, because really, if you talk to students that are coming out of school, those new grads that are coming out, you'll find that very often they're taught stuff that the previous generations weren't. And I do really enjoy that when I talk to new grads and just talk to the schooling. They're very often taught some of these new things. I'm like, man, I wasn't taught that when I was in school. Additionally, if you talk to people in schools, and if you talk into PT schools, they'll tell you, we're trying to integrate the newest things in here. We work hard to put those things in. Now, they're not trying to put fad stuff in. This is the stuff that's just kind of coming in and going out. They're like, no. This something seems to be something that has good evidence behind it. That's something they could do. We need to make this part of our curriculum. So they're always trying and striving to keep the most current evidence in there. And also to make sure, again, that it's a good quality evidence to it. And I'm saying, if you really get in there and look at it, yeah, the schools are trying to teach that stuff as much as possible to make you a good therapist as you come out. If you think it's silly that I'm saying that schools shouldn't teach you everything, hit that like button down below. Back to the video. One thing I tell every student or new grad or anyone who ever talks about that with school, I tell them this about school. School lays the foundation. Truly and honestly, look at it. School lays the foundation for what you build upon as you go out. And really, when I see the people saying, well, school doesn't teach you that, it makes me think of that you're just wanting school to teach you everything. So you're saying when you go, you should just be like the highest possible level. Is that what you're saying? So that school should teach you just absolutely everything, and you should be at this such a high level. Really, it can't. Because you just don't have enough time. That's a big thing. You just don't have enough time to learn all of this stuff while you're in school. I do remember about that. And think about it. You learn so much as it is when you're in school. When are you going to have time to do more? All it's going to do is just lengthen out the time of school. You'll end up being there for 4 or 5 years and just building on all this stuff. And additionally, are you going to use everything that you learn in school? I'm going to tell you this, going through PT school, I could tell you all the developmental reflexes for pediatrics. So like newborns, all those milestones. I knew all of those. I don't know them now. I don't work in pediatrics. And I tell students that. I'm like, look, you'll know the stuff then as you get out. I don't know that because that's not my area. I have focused into my area. Into orthopedics is what I do. I have focused into that area to improve my skills and abilities. So no, I don't need to focus on doing that because I don't see pediatrics. Same with like neurology. I don't get a lot of patients who have neurologic issues. So I don't focus in that area. I can't tell you the Glasgow Coma scale because it's just not an area that I work in. So yeah, as you get out, you're going to kind of tease out. So yeah, if they taught you all that stuff in school, they're just going to bombard you with a ton of information. And is it all going to be relevant? Probably not. So I find this thing incredibly silly. It is really just a marketing tactic. It's somebody who is trying to push their coaching or training to pad their wallet more than anything else. There is no secret. Schools aren't withholding anything from you. No, they're not. What they are doing, what school does, like I said, it sets the foundation. As you go through your career, as you do your continuing ed courses, as you get your experience, you build upon that as you go and you get better and better and better. I don't know. To me, like I said, it makes it sound like school should just teach you absolutely everything while you were there. At the end of the day, that's what I see this of. When people start pushing that stuff, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, It is the same thing that I have seen in other areas just so much. And all you're trying to do is to push something to pad your wallet more than anything. And it's just a marketing tactic. That's all it is at the end of the day, is a marketing tactic. If somebody's trying to say that schools teaching you all that, they've never even talked to anybody in the school system in any of that. They're trying to make a villain, which is a very common marketing thing. Just create a villain. Schools are the villain, that they're trying to hold you back from your potential. And they all of a sudden have this, amazing thing that, of course, like nobody ever knows about, that no one ever talks about. They've come up with the secret through this, whatever, and no, they really don't. But keep that in mind. If you know somebody who is a new grad out there who's wondering about it, send them this video. Let them know. Share this with them. Say, hey, school sets the foundation. It is what you are going to build upon. Learn that stuff there as you go out. Get your experience, get your continuing ed, and you will be a much better therapist as you go along. With all that being said, let me know your beliefs down in the comments below. Please share your beliefs, your opinions, all of that down there. If you enjoyed the video, hit that thumbs up button. And of course, consider subscribing to the channel. It doesn't cost you a copay or anything like that. And until next time, take care of yourself. Take care of your patients. I'll see you then.